Emotional eating, binge eating, food addiction, this is so much deeper than food. It is such a deep dive on how to make peace with food and ultimately yourself. I didn't know. I got wired at a young age to just eat all the time. I'm stressed out, eat. I'm happy, eat. I'm bored, eat. It was just, my brain's just firing and wiring. When I wasn't sleeping, my hunger hormones were out of control, so I would just eat all the time because you're a bottomless pit when you're hungry. And I remember starting to take his magnesium. It rocked my world. I had the best sleep of my life. I was like, okay, Barton, I'm sorry. I totally judged you. And got the best sleep of my life and realized this is the game changer. This is the gateway, focusing on your sleep. This is changing my life. What? If everybody knew this, this is the Willy Wonka golden ticket. It was the biggest game changer. I have never felt so nourished, so calm, so peaceful, grounded, just by adding in more beef into my diet like 3 times a day. You know how many binge eating disorders I could help women with if they just had beef for breakfast, lunch, and dinner? Bulletproof coffee changed my life. I mean, I wasn't having my periods for a year. I had no fat in my diet. Absolutely game changer, adding in fat. I always love finding out the root cause of what it is we're really craving, because underneath emotional eating, binge eating, food addiction, cravings, we're craving something so much deeper than the food. You're craving you.
Errin Smith, welcome to Miami and welcome to the Keto Camp podcast.
Thank you so much, Ben. It is so awesome to be with you. It is so full circle moment right now. Shout out to Dr. Pompa, where it all started.
Yeah.
And just pumped to share my story and help as many people as I can. So thank you.
Your story is very powerful. And for those of you who are not familiar with Erin's story, stay tuned. She's about to share it right now. And yeah, kudos to the GOAT, Dr. Pompa.
Yeah.
We connected, I think it was 2018, must have been 2018, 2019. And ever since then, we've become great friends. I see you at all these events. A lot of the people that I've interviewed on the Keto Camp podcast, testament to you connecting me to these wonderful people. You're the ultimate connector. So Erin's here in Miami. We're here at the studio. We're going to have a great dinner tonight, get some steak. Barton Scott's going to join us and my fiance. So I'm grateful to be here with you, Erin. And I want to go back and share your backstory and some of the pain you went through and how that revealed this promise and this purpose for you. So what were your struggles like, Erin?
Yeah, well, right. It's always our mess. Our mess is our message. I mean, there's so many golden highlights in my life that led me to this. But man, what we crave is just born out of my own mess to figure out what the heck was going on with me. Because I had a very intense disordered eating, binge eating, emotional eating, stress eating problem that I covered up for a really long time. So this is actually really vulnerable, full circle, really special for me, because I know a lot of people that might be doing keto might be feeling the same. They're not doing, something else is going on underneath all of it. And that was so me. But just rewinding all the highlights of my childhood, it all makes sense, like how this developed, right? So first, I grew up born in 81, Goonies baby. Goonies was like the hit of our childhood, where it's like, you don't have a phone, you don't have a computer, you're riding your bikes, there's no cell phones, it's processed food, mac and cheese, freaking, just like the most processed, like Costco was luxury food, the muffins and the red vines and so I never knew what real food was. I never knew what real nourishing food was. And vegetables was romaine lettuce with freaking croutons and a slice of glyphosate, tomato, non-organic. I mean, iceberg lettuce. That was my vegetables, and a slice of bread with fake butter, right? And so everyone can relate to that probably growing up. And so I never knew what real food was. I never knew what it tasted like, what it felt like. So this all makes sense, right? So then fast forwarding, I get into junior high and I'm scrawny and skinny. I don't know if you were like that in junior and high school, but man, I was so skinny and I got made fun of all the time. I couldn't gain weight. And I remember just feeling like when you can't gain weight and you don't feel normal and you're so skinny that you hate yourself in a way. You just want to be normal and liked by everybody else. So, and I played basketball. I know you hoop too.
Love it.
Basketball, volleyball, and of course, my dad, who's a baller, said, you better put on some weight because you got to gain some weight, because I was so skinny. I'll send a picture to you so you can see it. It's absolutely just.
Yeah, we'll put it on the screen on the YouTube, by the way. Yeah, we'll show on the screen. Yeah.
And so my dad was like, eat all the time. Burgers, shakes, ice cream, crappy protein shakes. I was in a fed state all the time.
You were a grazer, a snacker.
Oh, I mean, beyond that. It was just eat as much as you can all day, every day. And it was just gain weight, just gain weight. And so it felt weird to not eat. It was not normal for me to not eat. And so you can see the wiring starting to happen. So then fast forwarding to college, kept eating, gained the freshman 20, 30, and then moved to California where everybody's healthy and in shape. And I go, oh, if you eat a salad, you lose weight. Okay, that was my nutrition course. Like, eat salad, lose weight, right? And then you can see this thing starting to happen. You see, oh, I'm vegan, I'm this, I'm that. All these people in California looking sexy. And I started trying to learn things on my own. Then fast forwarding, I have a massive grand mal seizure because I decided to do a detox the wrong way, not knowing anything about detox. I was doing a fitness competition, and my friend had an Ayurvedic detox recipe: Epsom salt, grapefruit juice, and olive oil. I took 4 times the amount, stripped all of the electrolytes out of my system, had a grand mal seizure, and should have died.
Gosh.
And this was I don't even remember. I was in the hospital for 4 days in a coma. Like, I barely survived. Should have had a heart attack. I had angels around me that day. And yeah, that's why I'm so passionate about doing detox the right way, as we know, and salt.
Yes.
So then that brings me to, and this is all part of this story that makes so much sense, but then I get out of this seizure. I am so grateful I survived, and I start getting really just so passionate about health, from brain health to detox to just health in general, because I cherished it so much now that I was, kissed death, basically, and went into the health industry, got a sales job at a superfood company that was incredible, started going to all the conferences. That's where I met Dr. Pompa, sort of just moved on from company to company and just kicking ass. And that's when I started working for Dr. Pompa and learned about fasting and ketosis and detox. And I got really passionate about vaccine injury and wanted to do something greater. And I just felt this major purpose with Pompa, but then I learned all the protocols with keto. And the first time I'd had that sip of that bulletproof coffee.
Oh, that's a good feeling right there.
Because I was vegan forever. I was not eating any fat. I lost my period for a few years in California trying to figure out how to lose weight. And I was so depleted in fat. And so when I had that first sip, it's like all the lights come on. It's like Christmas morning. And you are just like, what just happened to me? It's like the mount of the clouds part. And you're just like, the angels are like singing and the sun is shining on your face. So then, of course, I went beast mode on that too, right? That's tends to be my thing, is I'll go really extreme on something.
Yeah, if something's good, more is better.
Yeah. Oh man. When will Erin learn? And so then I started to go crazy on keto, bulletproof coffee. I was just serving everyone, you guys got to try this. This is life-changing. Do you know you need fat? And I was so deficient, and I got my period back and I feel amazing. And then I moved on from Dr. Pompa's company, moved on to a different company. And that's when stuff really started to hit the fan. So I somehow managed to manifest narcissistic, toxic bosses my entire life. There's a lesson in that as well. And so my VP of sales career that I had worked so hard for, I was at the top of the chain, right? Top of the food chain. And it was my rock bottom, absolute worst. Those photos that I sent you where I looked like I was completely dead inside.
We'll show that right now.
Dead zombie mode. Oh man, that was at the height of my career. The most miserable I'd ever been, right? And I was binge eating on keto. So what happened was I was so deficient in fat, got myself back on track, and then I ended up using keto as a crutch to numb how just the biggest hell I was in from my job at that corporate VP level. So long story short, I completely numbed with food. We'll get into, more into this, but I went so extreme with keto, and I was in denial about everything because keto's good for you. I took it extreme, and then my whole body, everything completely changed. I looked dead inside, and I started taking pictures of myself going, what is happening to you, Erin? Because you are the most health nut, all the protocols. You've worked for all the doctors, Dr. Pompa, Zach Bush, like all these legends, and you are still struggling. You're gaining weight. You feel terrible. What is going on with you? And I kept binge eating. I kept doing it, and I knew something was wrong. So I finally said, I got to get to the bottom of this because I know better. I'm still doing it. I know I miss health nut, and I had a lot of shame around it, which we'll talk about, but I finally just said, I got to figure out what's going on. So I started interviewing people. I gathered up everybody that I knew in the health space that I had been, that I've known for over 15 years. And I started interviewing all of them, including you, which, man, we had a great conversation.
We did.
And I actually figured out, oh, it's actually emotional eating, binge eating, food addiction. This is so much deeper than food. And it is such a deep dive on how to make peace with food and ultimately yourself. And so that's when now here we are today. And so,
yeah, what a story. I think it's very relatable. Emotional eating, binge eating. It's good to go back to your history and kind of unpack where that started to develop. A lot of our behaviors today as an adult developed in our childhood, and now the brain is just wired to act that way. But the good news, the great news, the amazing news is that you could rewire that brain. You could overcome that. You hosted this online summit called What We Crave. This is what you're referring to, where you were interviewing all these experts. I was blessed to be one of those experts, and also there were so many incredible people on there. So what were some of the key things you learned? I know you learned a lot with all those interviews. What are some of the key things that you learned that you started to apply to regain control again?
Yeah, there's so many things. There's a list a mile long, but I'll give you the top highlights that are so key. It's such a deep dive, so much deeper than I realized. The first one is the wiring of the brain. What you just said. I interviewed Ashley DeLello, and we just it gives you so much grace for your childhood because we just didn't know what we didn't know. With what happened with me, I didn't know. I got wired at a young age to just eat all the time, and then it became I'm stressed out, eat. It became I'm happy, eat. I'm bored, eat. It was just my brain's just firing and wiring, right? Like Joe Dispenza talks about. And I interviewed Ashley, and she goes into a deep dive, but you can rewire the brain, and it just takes a little bit of time, but man, there's freedom on the other side of that. And that's not just with binge eating, but anxiety, stress. I mean, everything.
Any bad behavior.
Yeah.
Any bad behavior could be rewired.
Yeah. Absolute freedom.
I'm curious because there are different thought processes around how long it takes to rewire that brain, create these new neural pathways. I remember many years ago, there was a research study that came out of the University of College London that showed it takes about 66 days to do this. Then you have books like Psycho-Cybernetics, which is a very old book that says it takes about 21 to 28 days. Then you have people saying, no, it's closer to 90 days. I personally think that it'll depend on the person and what method they're doing to change their brain waves, brain patterns. But what are your thoughts on how long it will take to rewire this brain?
Yeah, again, it's everybody's different, right? And it depends how deep those grooves are in the brain, right? That path that's been carved. For me, it was almost 30 years. Oh. So that's some unraveling. But I know, Ashley talks about it in her interview, but also I interviewed Brittany Watkins, and she does EFT tapping. I think some of the smaller, less deeper paths, those are a little less. You can free those up a lot sooner. But I would say, sometimes I notice it instantly where I can feel a release, but when it's deep emotional stuff, I would say a couple months at least, because it took you 30 years to get there. It's going to take a little bit of time.
Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah. And I remember part of your story with you and Pompa when he saw you one day and you were bloated, right? And it looked like you were pregnant, right? Share that story real quick.
Yeah, throw that photo up.
Throw the photo up for sure right now. What happened when Pompa saw you looking like this?
God, I love you, Dr. Pompa. It was so sweet because he saw me, and I remember he told me, he goes, Erin, I wanted to say something, but I couldn't because I wanted you. This was your journey, and you had to figure this out on your own. I didn't want to hijack that journey for you because you never would have learned. And I said, thank you so much for that because you're right. It wouldn't have brought me here. I mean, it wouldn't have brought me. All of it brought me to where I am, and without that, I wouldn't have. If I had a time machine, I wouldn't have gone back and changed anything. But it was, that photo, a lot of people actually thought I was pregnant, and it's so sad, but that's called nut gut. I coined that term too.
Nut gut?
Yeah. So that is when you eat I was eating 4 bulletproof bars a day, which those things are amazing. But you eat 4 a day, you're going to jack some stuff up because the cashews, the MCT oil, I had 4 of those a day. I was eating keto snacks with erythritol.
Yeah, the sugar alcohols.
Sugar alcohols. And then I was eating a ton of almond flour, fat bombs.
So oxalates,
oh,
anti-nutrients.
Oxalate City, baby. I was just like, it's normal, it's fine because it's
keto.
It's keto, and it's
yeah.
fine. That's keto denial. That's what I like to say.
So you ended up getting you ended up getting SIBO. Was it SIBO?
Yes. So I had SIBO, and it just was the erythritol. It was everything. So I reintroduced dairy, full fat cream, like fermented yogurts at the fermentation farm in Costa Mesa. It's freaking amazing. Dr. Pompa loves them too. But I was eating 3 of those a day. That's almost like a carton of cream.
Oh my gosh.
Erin is genetically not programmed to digest dairy, and I added it back in because it's keto. That was my first mistake. Then it was erythritol, then the fat, then the almonds. And I mean, I would go up to the Bulletproof Cafe in Santa Monica. They had almond flour scones this big, and I would have a couple of them. Then I would have the keto ice cream with the butter and the erythritol in it, or the xylitol. I mean, I would go crazy, Ben. That's how I got that gut, and I just thought that was normal. Like, it'll go down. It's fine. Yeah.
That is, you know what? It's funny, and it's not funny, but because a lot of people go through this when they do keto, they start to get the benefits, and they like, oh my gosh, I've been missing these healthy fats, and these are amazing fats. But the point here is you don't want to overdo it. And, and almonds specifically, Erin, are so popular in the keto space. Almond flours, almonds, just eating the actual almonds. And a lot of people are sensitive to oxalates, and almonds are loaded with oxalates. So is spinach and kale and different vegetables out there. So for me, I don't do well with almonds at all. I do fine with macadamia nuts and pili nuts and different nuts, but almonds are going to be a problem for me. This is where the customization comes into play, because there's a science to keto. There's also an art to keto, and you learn the hard way how to make yourself the artist of your health here when it comes to keto. So what did you start to do? Did you start to say, I got to stop with heavy fat bombs and the erythritol? Like, what were the steps that you took to get out of that?
Oh, man. It took me a hot minute. It wasn't immediate because that was my comfort. That was my drug. And I didn't want to let go of any of it. It took me at least a couple years of that. I did a lot of shame fasting, which we can talk about.
Yeah, I want to talk about that.
It took me years to get out of this cycle because that was my only joy. I was so disconnected from myself and my life and everything around me from this stressful job that it was like, don't you dare take that away. So what I did was I started, I took those selfies of me and I was like, I'm going to figure this out. I'm literally dead inside. And then I did the interviews for What We Crave. And once I started doing those interviews for What We Crave, that's when I started to unravel. And that's when the rewiring started to happen, because I listened to those interviews because I was editing them and filming them, that my brain started to naturally rewire and started to wake up. And so learning all these different things, just naturally my gut instinct was, maybe you don't need so much fat. So I started with that. And I remember hearing about seed oils. I remember hearing about just eat whole food. Stop with the fat bombs. Because, I would make a whole bowl, Ben, of fat bombs. The almond flour, MCT oil, cacao, plant-based protein. And I would literally have a massive bowl in probably a couple days. I would just pop them all day because, one, I was so stressed out. But also, again, I wasn't getting enough protein. So I was never really full. But I would eat those all day. And so I just remember going, maybe I should just try whole food, because everyone keeps telling me about whole food, but that seems way too easy. It can't be that easy, right? So then I started cooking from home using olive oil, because I would definitely eat out at restaurants when I lived in California. There's a lot of seed oils in that. But I started cooking from home, just starting with a few basic, simple things. Eat from home, cook from home, stop eating so many nuts, focus on whole foods, and then also get some sleep. And I know that this sounds like the easiest thing in the world, but when my gut was so busted up from the dairy and the erythritol, I wasn't sleeping. I was waking up at 1, 2 a.m., just adrenal fatigue and just wide awake. So then when I wasn't sleeping, my hunger hormones were out of control. So I would just eat all the time, because you're a bottomless pit when you're hungry. So I just remember going, okay, I interviewed Barton Scott on sleep and his magnesium. And I remember starting to take his magnesium. At first I was very skeptical. I was like, okay, sure, it's another magnesium. You know how we are in the supplement industry. We're like, it's got to be good. And it rocked my world. I had the best sleep of my life. I was like, okay, Barton, I'm sorry. I totally judged you and got the best sleep of my life and realized this is the game changer. This is the gateway, is focusing on your sleep. Because if it doesn't matter how perfect you eat, if you're not sleeping, everything kind of goes to shit, you know?
It's true.
And so I started sleeping, whole food, not so much fat. And when I did get fat, it was from food, not so. Let's say grass-fed beef.
So it was the fat
salmon.
that came with the protein.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is the best way to do it, by the way. The fat that naturally comes with the
Yes.
protein. No need to add a whole bunch of additional fat.
Yeah.
Now, in the beginning of keto, it's fine to do that.
Yep.
But as you transition, maybe don't take 2 years like Erin. You start to strip away the fat and just get it with the naturally occurring proteins.
Yeah. So it was grass-fed beef, salmon, sprinkle with some olive oil, sea salt, olives. I just focused on whole food. And then I had this epiphany, and I remember going, this is changing my life. What? If everybody knew this, this is the Willy Wonka golden ticket. Like, you've got to be kidding me. Is it that easy? And it is. So that, all of those things, that's what I started to do. And then I integrated CrossFit and a whole bunch of other stuff we can talk about. But that was the gateway, is just sleep, get really good sleep, and do those things. And I literally started to transform.
Hey, Keto Camper, I want to interrupt the video real quick to share with you what I believe is one of the most important nutrients that we should be taking every single day. Most people are deficient in this nutrient, and it's responsible for over 400 enzymatic activities in your body. And your body just doesn't make it. So it's required to be taken in a high quality supplement or from high quality foods. The problem with the food is that our soil is depleted and it's hard to get this quality nutrient. So what is this nutrient? It's called magnesium. But I'm going to share something with you very fascinating. Check this out. Upgraded Formulas has this incredible product called Upgraded Magnesium. And Barton Scott, the developer of this product and company, he's a brilliant guy. He created nanoparticle magnesium, which has the ability to penetrate your membranes and go right into your cells. There's a 99.99% absorption rate. Now, this is unheard of because with other magnesium products, you better believe it's not that high. And there's an interesting study they're doing with Upgraded Mag I want to share with you real quick. Early results from a sleep study with Dr. Sachin Patel showed that the average doctor in the group using this product has achieved an improvement of over 35% in deep sleep, more sleep studies, and a double-blind controlled placebo study with Upgraded Magnesium is coming sooner. And you better believe those results are going to be super exciting. We already know this. Upgraded Magnesium is easily the best supplement you can take for better sleep, including deep sleep, muscle aches, cramping, and any other signs of a magnesium deficiency, which is so common, unfortunately. What makes Upgraded Formulas unique, as I mentioned, is that it's a nanoparticle. This means it is absorbed very rapidly and efficiently by your blood cells. They produce a plasma-like version of minerals that the body recognizes and absorbs without digestion. And the results are phenomenal. I really believe just taking this for a couple of nights, you'll notice a big difference. So if you want to get Upgraded Formulas, Upgraded Mag, and any of their products, they also do some incredible hair mineral analysis tests to see your mineral imbalances and deficiencies, etc., and other incredible products that we've referenced before. Head over to upgradedformulas.com and use the coupon code KETOSIS to get 15% off your entire order. That is upgradedformulas.com. Coupon code is KETOSIS to get 15% off your entire order. I'm going to drop a link for you down below in the notes of this video. Okay, let's go back to this video.
Yeah.
You mentioned the word shame fasting.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Yeah. So that's a term I came up with when I had to get really real with myself. And, I know a lot of women can relate to this, where they gain weight and then they say, I'm going to do a fast. And it's really just a cover up for disordered eating. So because I was in so much shame, because Pompa saw me gaining the weight, people saw me gaining the weight, didn't say anything. I was in so much shame about it.
And you're like the health chick, right?
Health chick.
You're not supposed to be gaining weight.
Yeah.
And you know everything and you're connected to everybody. So
Yeah.
there was some guilt and shame involved.
Oh yeah. And I was feeling not worthy, I wouldn't be validated, acceptance, these are all deep-rooted causes we'll talk about. But I remember going, if I'm overweight in the health space, this is like the worst thing, And so I would eat keto, I would binge eat, and I would gain 15 pounds over whatever amount of time. It was pretty quick because that cream was really
dense.
And I'd gain the weight, and then I go, what just happened to me? And then I would fast it off. And I would tell my friends, like, oh, you want to go, up to Santa Barbara for the weekend? I'd say, no, I got to do a fast. I'm fasting this weekend.
So you would fast
And
whole, like 3 days, the whole weekend?
I
or?
would do 5. It was like forced fasting. It was like punishment fasting.
Wow.
It was at least 5 days until the weight came off. I've gone 15 with bone broth and water and some supplements, but up to 15 days, I was like, this weight's coming off. I am so, just the punishment. And I remember going, this is really sad that I'm doing this, but I got to do it, and I did it. I got the weight off. And then because I got the weight off and you go into ketosis because you're fasting, right? I'm checking my ketones. I'm at like 3, 4, whatever. And you're in ketosis. So you got to stay in ketosis, right? Because I'm like, I lost the weight. I got to stay in ketosis now. So then I would, number one, I wasn't breaking my fast the right way, which is gentle and loving and broth and scrambled eggs and avocado and gentle. I was not doing that. What did Erin do? She drove right back up to the Bulletproof Cafe and had the almond flour scones, the ice cream, and everything, because I just, there was so much anger around that fast that it was just like, now I get to celebrate. And then I would gain it back, and then I would do it again. And this became, again, this is what led me to What We Crave, but this became my pattern, and that's, yeah. So
you would punish yourself with the fast, reward yourself at the Bulletproof Cafe or wherever you're going, and then feel awful about gorging on that, and then punish yourself with and kind of go back and forth until you broke the cycle.
Yeah. I got addicted to that yogurt, the fermented yogurt. There's so much bacteria that causes the SIBO. So it was actually, I think it was the bacteria in addition I was actually addicted to some of the things. And and I just kept doing it and until I finally figured it out. But it's a real thing. I've seen a lot of women use fasting as a cover up for I just need to lose weight and I don't feel good about myself.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
So I know that there's a lot of things that were involved with you breaking that cycle, specifically this one about the shame fasting and then the eating Bulletproof Coffee or Bulletproof Cafe and shame fasting, etc. Was it just like a decision you make where you became aware to it and you're like, I'm no longer doing this. I'm making this decision right now. Or like, what was the transition out of that? I'm curious.
It wasn't. It was a slow, gentle process. It was actually more loving. And here I am like forcing all this stuff. And I just started, I remember I had a gut instinct to go, you need to leave California and you need to get into nature. Those are the two things in my head, just a gentle wave of just intuition. It just kept saying you need to leave California. Well, my lease was ending. My sister was having a home birth actually in Spokane, Washington. Shout out to Ben Greenfield. And she wanted me to be her push buddy. And I was like, absolutely. My lease was up. She was having a baby. I packed up my stuff and I couldn't have left California faster. Like my soul was just like, get out.
You're ready.
Because California, your nervous system is overloaded. There's so much traffic. You're like this all the time. Where I was living, the EMF towers, the traffic, the go, And so I just remember going, I need to get into peace. I need to get in the mountains and I need to get into nature. And once I did that, that was the start of it. It wasn't, I just remember going, I just need to ground and find some peace and get out of this I had to get out of my toxic job too, which I did that too. But it was just like, you need to leave your environment. And that was one of the biggest things. And it came very softly but I was asking, there was a deep desire in my soul to be like, God, I'm so sick of this. Help me. And what do I do? And it just started coming to me. Yeah.
So you changed your environment.
Yep.
You asked the questions, you paid attention to your intuition.
Yep.
And things started to move into place for you to leave to Spokane. Now you're in Idaho.
Yep. Coeur d'Alene, Idaho.
Idaho.
Mm-hmm.
So you changed your environment and changed everything for you.
Yeah. One of my Erinisms is if you show up for life, life will show up for you. And I started showing up and just listening. Because I think, but I had to get quiet enough to listen. And a lot of us won't get quiet enough to listen. We're too busy doing all the things.
So important. What you just said there is so important. We're distracted, numbing ourselves, scrolling, eating, stimulation, whatever it is, to avoid that quiet space to pay attention to what the soul is trying to share with us.
Oh man, my soul was screaming at me and I didn't listen forever. And that's 25 years later with a binge eating problem. And but yeah, all I had to do was just listen and get quiet enough. And it seems so freaking simple.
It does. It really does. Like, just stop distracting yourself and numbing yourself and sit back and pay attention. But it's really hard to do that when you've been so used to distracting yourselves from when you wake up to before you go to bed. Like, we're literally on our phone all day.
Yep.
Well, out of all the lessons you've learned from doing keto, what's been the biggest one?
Oh, the lessons. There's so many. I think the biggest one, and again, this is for me with my own story, is that I think in the health space, we get so trapped into do it this way. It's got to work for everybody because, this dogma. And I had to really break that open and really look at it. Because I just, after doing what I've done with carnivore and how my transformations happened and how much I've shifted, I think one of the biggest ones that changed for me was going more of a carnivore approach and way more protein from grass-fed beef. Yeah. Grass-fed, grass-finished beef. And lifting weights and a few other things. But those two, on top of what I already mentioned with sleep, but those two seem so simple. Like that's got to be too easy. And it was the biggest game changer. I have never felt so nourished, so calm, so peaceful, grounded, just by adding in more beef, grass-fed, grass-finished beef into my diet like 3 times a day. And that was, I sat back and I just said, if women could understand this, you know how many binge eating disorders I could help women with if they just had beef for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and just try it for even one day, let alone 1 week, 1 month, Yeah,
that's eat more fat. No, not necessarily. Eat more protein. Yes. That's the natural progression, Erin, for a lot of people who do keto, even myself. They go from eating a high carb, high sugar diet. They find out about ketosis. They start loading up on fat, decreasing their carbs. They're now fat adapted, maybe keto adapted. They're feeling good. And it gets to a point where things need to change. Your body needs to adapt to a new change, right? So carnivore is usually the next progression for a lot of these people. And it was for me too. Yep. And it has been for you as well. The cool thing about carnivore is that there is an emphasis on protein, and especially women, to your point, they're missing protein. And there's a lot of benefits to protein, but one of them in the relation to this conversation is what it does to help you feel full and satisfied, as you just mentioned, to avoid the overeating, the binge eating. So if you just had it for breakfast, some beef for breakfast, like it would definitely start your day off the right way, versus even a bulletproof coffee, because there's a different response from the protein in the beef than just the fat in the coffee.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Let me just rave about this for a second, because bulletproof coffee changed my life. I mean, I wasn't having my periods for a year. I had no fat in my diet. Absolutely game changer adding in fat. But for me, as someone that works out all the time, I would have a bulletproof coffee first thing in the morning, and then I go to spin class and I do way too much cardio.
In a fasted state.
In a fasted state.
There's the fat fast.
Yeah. And I wasn't taking any salt. And that was another one of my keto lessons. I was not taking in enough salt. My seizure was one thing. So I'm always kind of deficient from that. But just on the regular, not getting enough salt first thing in the morning, that created adrenal fatigue for me. So much stress. I was like anxious all the time because I wasn't getting enough fat and protein with it in the morning. It would just be just bulletproof coffee because you got to fast. That's the way to do it, right? And I remember, I don't know, last fall, I remember I was feeling really just tired and just like a slower morning, sluggish. I remember just going, you know what? I'm craving some beef for breakfast with some sea salt and an egg on top. I'm just going to eat that. And I did it. And it was like all the lights came on and I felt a lot like complete, going from like just complete 180. And that was, again, this is for me. I know I need fat and protein in the morning from beef. Like that is just hands down. And some people do great on bulletproof coffee, you know, but again, it depends on the person, their stress levels, what they're going through. But yeah, that was one of the biggest game changers, and adding the salt. Getting rid of the nuts. I mean, you know, everything else. But if people just would add salt.
Yeah.
That I remember someone said, Erin, you're not hungry. You're just severely dehydrated.
That's true. That could be true. Yep.
And I just go, oh, is that why after spin class, I would inhale a week's worth of groceries in one sitting? Because all my body was doing was craving salt. Yeah. So I just started. It's
a good tip. Look, if you're not getting in quality salt and you're feeling hungry all the time, that could be the reason why.
Oh, yeah. Relight and Element. And Relight are my two
all those are great.
things.
Yeah, all that's great.
Yeah.
Redmond's, Relight, Elements, just Redmond's real salt. Put that salt in your water. If you're drinking coffee, put it in your coffee. Coffee depletes you of the electrolytes too. So it's might as well replenish that.
Yep.
So it sounds like what you're doing now is... Oh, let me ask you, are you strict carnivore right now, or are you having some what I call flex days where you kind of go in and out?
I'm definitely flexing because I've learned enough with enough podcasts from you and Dr. Pompa and a lot of people that, especially with females, it's going to be a little bit different with our cycles. And so I'm still feeling things out because some days I do crave some vegetables, but it's usually once or twice a week. I mean, before I was eating like a huge thing of kale this big and just bloating up to here. In the day.
What about now? What are your vegetables now?
So now I'll just do roasted vegetables. I do more of the lower, the ones that aren't as, what's the word?
Oxalates?
Yes.
Yeah, so arugula and broccoli.
Yeah, I've been craving like roasted carrots and maybe some sweet potato and then some honey at night if I'm really feeling like I need something, because I do CrossFit 5 days a week. I cold plunge and I do hot yoga. So, you know, we need a little extra in there, but I just adding that in. And then on like for Christmas, my sister made some amazing grain-free paleo cookies, whatever. I had 3 to be like, let's see how I do on almond flour. Did not do well, but I still ate them. And I definitely didn't bloat up like I did, but I could still tell my body's like, you're not jamming with this. So I will flex just to test. But again, I feel so amazing on grass-fed beef and just a little bit of vegetables, a little sweet potato when I need it, and some honey, and I will do some berries. And oh my gosh! But my coffee shake, my coffee routine has changed, and it is a life changer. I have to fill you in on this. So now, because I did get rid of all the seed oils that there was still some in my diet back when I was doing keto, like the keto cereals or the just the healthy snacks that still have it in there, you know. And then I would have a little bit of coffee with a little bit of gluten-free organic oat milk that still has seed oils in it. And I remember going, you know what? I got to get rid of all this. It just was easy for me to let go of. And so now, instead of all of that, what I do now is I'll go to CrossFit in the morning. I'll do my Relight, my Mana, my superfood. So it's sort of like a partial fasted workout with just a bunch of nutrients. Mana
is the Shilajit that you put me onto. I've been putting in my coffee.
Oh, really?
Because of you.
Oh, nice.
They sent me some. Yeah.
Amazing. Oh my gosh. It's like your whole electrical system lights up, and I feel amazing on it. So I'll just work out with that. I'll come home, and again, because when I have amino acids, salt, like you do great. You're not depleted. I kill my workout class. Everyone's like, "What are you on, girl?" I'm like, salt and some nutrients.
Salt.
And so I come home and I make this yummy, I do full fat coconut milk, not the kind that's in the box, like the full fat coconut milk that's organic, you know, in the can with the, you know, the no BPA lining, of course. And I'll do fresh organic espresso, colostrum, MCT powder that's like a vanilla, and some Paleo Valley's bone broth protein. And that actually, they have flavored like vanilla chocolate plain, but the vanilla is the bomb. It doesn't taste like bone broth at all. So, and then I add ice.
I haven't thought about doing that. I'm like,
oh my God.
That sounds great. I love Paleo Valley's bone broth.
Oh my gosh.
I think I have it here too.
And you add some ice and you blend it up, and it is the thickest, creamiest, yummiest shake with no seed oils, protein, fat, and the protein's like at least 30 grams at least. And I feel so freaking good on that. And it's changed the game. It's just finding something that you can swap out. I think that's the key, is people don't want to get rid of their keto snacks or whatever that they love so much, but just swap it out with something that will nourish you and make you feel just as good, if not better, without all the bloating and the processed stuff. And man, I hit the jackpot with that one. I highly recommend that for everyone to get that one.
Sounds amazing.
Yeah.
I want to try that. You're right. It's easier to, instead of remove, to replace.
Yeah.
Right? So find out what you could swap with. That routine sounds awesome. I'm actually craving that right now.
Hey, I'll make you one.
I would love that. That sounds amazing. With What We Crave, first of all, where can the keto campers watch those interviews of What We Crave?
Yeah, just whatwecrave.com. And
Easy.
yeah, and you're in the trailer, and so it's super fun to have you on that, talking about your story.
Yeah.
And there's Dr. Pompa, Mark Grove, Zach Bush, Mindy Pels, a bunch of other rock stars, personal stories. Just a deep dive on all those interviews, or just a deep dive on what's at the root of all of it. And it's really fun. It's really cool. It's really real and down to earth and raw and vulnerable, because that's the kind of stuff you got to talk about when you are dealing with eating disordered eating, you know?
It's very important to have these conversations. At the end of all those conversations, you ask the guests a specific question.
Yeah.
What was the question and what were some of the responses?
Yeah. Yeah. I always love finding out the root cause of what it is we're really craving, because underneath emotional eating, binge eating, food addiction, cravings, we're craving something so much deeper than the food. And for me, obviously, there's self-worth. There's a bunch of other stuff, you know, that was at the root of that. But I asked everyone that question because I love hearing people's answers. And I loved your answer, which was purpose. But yeah, I just ask everyone, what do you think underneath all of it, what are we really craving? And my answer, you know, I interviewed 50 interviews, and Zach Bush had given me one of the best answers. I mean, everyone's answer was spot on, because there's a lot of different answers. But he had said, you're craving you. And when you do a deep dive on that, it is such a beautiful way of such a beautiful deep dive. And I love that he said that, because essentially at the core of it, making a very, very detailed conversation down into like some bullet points, you know, you're craving a connection to yourself that you lost. And because if you think about it, if you're at a football game and your team just scored the winning touchdown, you're going to the Super Bowl, and you're high and just full energy, happy, you're not thinking about food. If you're at a wedding and you're dancing, you're not thinking about food. If you are at Christmas morning and you're watching your kids open a gift, you're not thinking about food. You are so connected. Hi, buddy. You're so connected and present and happy and alive. And I think that's what we're craving, is to feel alive in our own bodies. And that's another deep dive, but we're craving to feel alive from a nutritional standpoint, purpose, people, connection, nature. There's a whole deep dive on what it means to be alive in your own body, but that's essentially what we're craving, is a connection to ourself. And also too, that the spirituality side, I was completely ignoring that side of things. That's a whole other deep dive. But, you know, I remember, because I grew up in a very Christian home, and it was, if you're not perfect, fill in the blank, you're going to go to hell, kind of, you know, like just very, I'm not saying all, you know, Christianity is not like that, but my household was. And so there was this toxic perfectionism, and I pushed God away for a long time, because I was like, this is not love. This is not unconditional love. This is, you know, something else. And I didn't feel right to me. And so I pushed God away for a long time. And I think that's why, honestly, why rock bottoms happen, is to push you, get you right on your path to purpose, to fast track you, and to get you to reconnect with your higher power, the master, the God, spirit, whatever you want to call it, but it's a connection to yourself on a deeper level that it's everything, because that will feed you more than any type of food will from the inside out. That's the key right there, is you lock back into that and you remember who you are. And you actually, I mean, you got to work on some deep stuff and some triggers and traumas and limiting beliefs and all these things. But once you can actually get there and you can actually feel that again, that's peace from the inside out. That's how you dissolve emotional eating, is finding that peace. And so that's essentially a connection to yourself. And that's what we're really craving.
So good. Choose yourself, put yourself first. When you do that, the example you just gave about being at a football game and enjoying the football game, watching your kids in the morning, when you're on purpose with your purpose and doing the things you love to do, there's not really time for all these bad behaviors and addictions. It's like you're not going to be thinking about those bad behaviors and addictions. You're going to be thinking about that moment that you're in, that you're loving and enjoying. The sad truth, though, is that so many people have lost that connection with themselves. They've lost the joy in life. They're, what Earl Nightingale used to say, they are tiptoeing their way through life, hoping to land safely on death's door. And we want to wake you up. whatwecrave.com is a way to wake you up. Like this conversation is a way to wake you up. Erin woke herself up. I woke myself up. Nobody could do it but you. And sometimes the rock bottom is a huge blessing. I mean, it's always a blessing once you get out of it. But when you're there, you're thinking, there's no way this is a blessing. I hate myself. I hate being here. Why is this happening to me? When in reality, this is happening for us. So we could use that rock bottom to springboard into something great. It's what I did. It's what you did. But awareness is number one. And then number two, you start to take action on that real purpose. I do believe that a lot of the obesity we see out there is not because of what people are eating. It's because of what is eating them.
Oh, that is so good.
What you just said.
That is a beautiful way of saying it. That was, oh my gosh, that's poetry.
But it's what you just said. I just put it in a sentence.
That's so good.
Right? It's what's eating them.
Oh my gosh.
There's a quote from Robert Heinlein who said, it's one of my favorite quotes. I might have shared it on the What We Crave. I'm not sure, but he said, in the absence of clearly defined goals, we start to become strangely loyal to performing daily trivia until ultimately we become enslaved by it, right? Daily trivia is food addiction, it's pornography addiction, it's alcohol addiction, it's whatever it is, because you're not clearly defined on your goals. But when you become clearly defined on your goals and fall in love with it, there's no time for that. Daily trivia goes away, right? You became clearly defined on your goals and you started to fall in love with yourself and your purpose. And that's what it's all about.
Dude, you just nailed that. And another amazing quote to go off that. I think it was Mike Collins from the Quick Sugar Summit.
Yeah.
He said, addiction is just looking for God in all the wrong places.
Ooh.
And I just got chills.
Good, Mike.
So good, right?
Really
and I just
good.
thought that's so true because I was pushing God I was just pushing everything away because I didn't want to deal with all the pain and the, all that stuff that we stuff. And it just surfaced with a disordered eating problem. And when I finally dismantled it, it was all right there. And it's just, that's what it was purpose, God, connection to myself, people, nature, and just, it's all right there. And it makes sense when you look at just addicts in general. It's always some type of trauma when they're little or something traumatic that they haven't dealt with that I've noticed. And it doesn't have to be food. It was also me, not just food for me, but I was binge shopping too,
Yeah.
Alcohol.
Dopamine hits. Adding it to your cart is a dopamine hit too, even if you don't buy it, right?
Oh my gosh, retail therapy.
Yep.
Because alcohol was never my jam. Because I knew better on that one, but it was shopping and it was the F it moment with the credit cards. Like, F it, I deserve it. F it, I work hard. And I put myself in like 30 grand worth of debt over those years. I got myself out, but yeah, I interviewed Trisha Nelson. She said, you don't have an eating problem, you have a living problem.
Yes.
I was like,
good.
Oh, this is so good.
It's true. They're one-liners, but it's so true.
Yeah. And when I started to figure out my emotional eating, like the root causes, my debt started to change. I got myself out of debt. I started making moves and things changed in my life because I was showing up differently for myself because I found that self-worth again. But I remember, when you start to dismantle that addiction, other things will also dismantle. So as my eating habits got better, my debt got better, my shopping habits got better. I remember going, I don't need to buy that $100 pair of yoga pants. There's Poshmark that has the exact same pair for $20. And you're cool with it. You're like, no, I got my back, So that was a big one too. Yeah.
Here's the great news about somebody who has an addiction. It's actually a gift. And let me explain what I mean with that. It could be a superpower to be to have an addiction. What I mean by that is, if you think about all the energy and bandwidth you put into your addiction, you're a pro at it, right? And that's actually like a superpower, because when you start to love yourself, change your environment, get clear on your purpose, now that energy and the bandwidth, the superpower, is transferred into something that's going to transform you and the world, like your purpose, right? You've transferred that energy now into the things you're doing now, and you're absolutely crushing it. I transferred my addictions to video games and food, to health and nutrition and speaking, and I'm crushing it, right? So if you have the ability to be addicted to something, you have the ability to use that superpower for something great. I know that might be controversial for some people. I don't think all people who teach, how to overcome addiction might agree with that. But I believe it because I lived it myself. What are your thoughts on that mindset?
100% agree. I mean, I've always been an athlete. I've always been beast mode. That's just how I roll with the sports that I play. I'm competitive. There's a natural wiring in me, but that wiring can go beast mode in the other direction, like I did, right? But it also gives me the beast mode on the other side, which is I am so on fire for my purpose. So yeah, I do. You can use it for good. And I think that's in there too. Those rock bottoms and those moments and those addiction moments, you see that, and it's fire. It's fuel for the fire, I think, for me, because now that I'm on the other side, I want to help so many people. And now I'm like, let's freaking go, and that's why I love you so much. And all the people, Dr. Pompa, Kaylor, Josh Trent, like all these amazing people that are on the same, they feel that fire because they've gone through some shit, and they're like, I want to help people because I know how hard how much it sucks when you are feeling like you are walking through quicksand backwards, like in this yuck of life. And then you get on the other side and you're like, oh my God, I can help so many people with this. And then that's why I'm like on fire for it. And I think that that side of me is coming out.
Let's go.
So I agree. Yeah,
I love
let's
it.
Go.
WhatWeCrave.com. I have a final question for you.
Yes.
Before I ask you the final question.
Yes.
Share your Instagram. I just shared WhatWeCrave.com, and anywhere else you want them to go check you out.
Yeah. That health check is my Instagram. WhatWeCrave.com. That's it. I mean, if anybody wants that health optimization guide, send me an email. I'd be happy to. I made a health optimization guide with everything that I talked about, with my little recipes and my regimen that I do now. But that's you can drop that in the YouTube in the notes.
Yeah, we'll put Erin's email in the notes, and then the YouTube video and the podcast. And then if you want her routine with that bomb ass espresso, everything, email her. She'll give that to you. So we'll put that down below. And then we'll put your Instagram, and then whatwecrave.com is where you can get all those recordings. If you're following a low carbohydrate keto diet or carnivore diet, this is one of the most important tips. I see a lot of people who struggle with keto and carnivore, and the reason they struggle is because they are losing too many electrolytes. They're becoming mineral depleted. Every cell in your body needs minerals to function, to produce energy, which helps you burn fat and feel good. My favorite minerals and electrolytes are from Beam Minerals. These are fulvic and humic compounds that are bioavailable, that have over 70 minerals in them. It tastes like water, and all you do is simply drink from the bottle every single day to replenish your electrolytes. They also have sprays that you could put directly on a muscle cramp, a foot cramp, and it alleviates the cramping. And this is what I take with me to go, which is a mineral complex that I could travel with. And it's been shown that when you take the right minerals and electrolytes, you're going to support your immune system, lower inflammation, help detoxify the body. These are plant-based, but they're carnivore friendly. Let me explain why. There are no anti-nutrients in them. It does not break a fast. As a matter of fact, it could support your fasting window, and it's been a game changer for my health, and I recommend it to all my students. So if you want to get your hands on some Beam Minerals, head over to beamminerals.com. Use the coupon code Azadi at checkout, my last name, Azadi at checkout, to get a nice discount. Beamminerals.com, coupon code is Azadi. Final question, vitamin G.
Yeah.
My favorite supplement in the world.
Yep.
Gratitude. What do you have vitamin G for today, Erin?
I love this question so much. I actually wanted to buy that vitamin G shirt that you have on your website, but they were out of stock, and so I wanted to wear it on this interview.
Yeah, I'll get you one. Yeah, I'll get you one.
But man, this question, there's three things that I really want to share that are just so important. One, I am most grateful for my nephews. I have 4 back home in Spokane. They're the lights of my life. I would die for those kids. They show me, they're so healing, number one. Kids to me are just so healing, but they show me everything that's important, which is presence and seeing what a miracle life is. You know what I mean? Like when you look at kids and how beautiful it even is to be on this earth, and that divine intelligence that surrounds everything at all times, and just how it flows through them. They have so much joy and beauty in them. And I'm so grateful for them. I'll probably start crying. I cry every time I talk about them because I love them so much. And it's also sparked a passion for me to help kids with like being rescued from sex trafficking. That's a huge passion of mine. I actually want to host an event to raise money for that because I think of my nephews going through that and I absolutely lose my shit. And so yeah, huge on fire for that. I'm very grateful for them because they make life so much sweeter and more beautiful. And they remind me of the divine miracle that we all are, that we're here. Number 2, I am so grateful for you. And because, you know, you and I met at the starting point of both of our careers. When I was working for Pompa, you came to that event, and I remember selling you that ticket to Dr. Pompa's conference and seeing you, like just being, you know, tangenting with you along this journey, watching you grow has been so inspiring, so amazing. And you're still the same down to earth, heart-centered, amazing human. You know, you haven't changed a bit, and you're even more grateful than you are now, and you want to help even more people, and you're just on fire, and you make people feel really seen and really heard, and you have a really beautiful gift. I just want to honor you for that.
Thank you.
I'm grateful for you because without you, I wouldn't be here. And yeah, so we just get to help so many people, but you're crushing it, and I'm so proud of you. And then the last one, I'm so grateful for the rock bottoms. I know that sounds cliche, but dude, the moments in life where the rug gets pulled out from underneath you and you were like, what the hell just happened to me? What is happening to me right now? And you don't see it. You can't see through it. You're walking through quicksand backwards, you know, and you're in the mud of life. And every single moment that I've had a rock bottom or the rug pulled out from underneath me has been the greatest gift and the biggest blessing inside of it, if you can find it. I mean, you can find it if you choose to. And so for me, I chose to find it. And then that brought me even more closer to God, to my relationship, my divine connection, to my purpose. It brought me closer to everything. And I now feel a peace inside of me that I didn't have before. I feel like no matter what happens, no matter what comes my way, when you have that inner peace and that connection is rock solid, nothing can touch you and you're bulletproof. And without those rock bombs, I wouldn't have gotten there, you know? I really think that's why they happen, is to get you on your path and to get you reconnected to your power, because somewhere along the line we lost it. And when you have that, that'll feed you more than anything in the world. And so I'm grateful for that because,
I love that vitamin G share.
Yeah.
I'm also grateful for you, Erin. You're an incredible human being. Ever since we met, you've been so supportive. You've also transformed so many lives. You've evolved to continuously evolve, yet you're the same humble person that I met back in 2018, 2019. And you've connected me to so many awesome people that I'm grateful for, that I now consider amazing friends, you know, like Kayla Betts and Mark Groves and many others. We have Pompa in common, which is super cool. I love that guy. And you just show up. You got amazing energy and attitude. You know, Mrs. 10X right there.
Yeah,
let's call me 10X. But thanks for making this happen. I'm grateful for the conversation. I'm also grateful to go eat a nice dinner with you, Natasha, and Barton Scott. So thanks again. We'll put all of our info down below. Until next time, thanks for listening and watching today. Thank you, Erin.